Hello my dear health seekers, Inga from Health Origins here. So today I'm gonna be making a almond cherry frangipane tart using okara. So let's begin. So for the base of this tart, I'm going to be using my pastry that I use in my lemon curd video. So I'll link the video up in the card above, in the description below, but I'm just using just a little bit more. So in my original video, I used 1/4 cup of cashews. I'm using 1/3 cup of cashews because instead of 3/4 cup of fine wholemeal plain flour, I've got a whole cup, so I'm just increased the quantities just that little bit. So 1/3 cup of cashews, and then I'm gonna blend cashews until they are very fine crumb in my food processor. So it took about 30 seconds. The nuts look quite nice and small. They're not like tiny, but I'm gonna add my flour. So this is 1 cup of fine plain wholemeal flour. So this is like what you call wholemeal pastry flour as well. Sometimes it's called. Then we're gonna need a couple of pinches of salt here, just to bring out a little bit of sweetness, and I'm gonna blend this for a few more seconds for the flour and the nuts to mix in. So the nuts and flour mixed up. There's a bit of flour I saw at the bottom just there, and if you're curious, the food processor I'm using is Sage. So I'll link down below. You can get one of those for yourself. Actually, this ball has got a little few cracks already. I've been using this for quite a while, but I already have another, because you can get a replacement jugs, so I already got a new one there waiting. Once this gives up completely, then I'll be able to use that one. Other couple of things we're gonna add. We're gonna add through this hole here. So I'm gonna add, while it's spinning, I'm gonna add couple of tablespoons of maple syrup. In fact, I think as I've increased it a little bit, I'll do 3 tablespoons of maple syrup, because obviously we're making a dessert anyway. So 3 tablespoons of maple syrup, and then if it's not binding yet, I think we'll probably need about 2-3 tablespoons of cold water as well. So I'm gonna just add this while it's turning, and we'll see how it starts sticking together. So as you can see, the crumbs are actually quite soft and moist now. There's a little bit of syrup that is just a little bit of the bottom here. I'm going to try and mop that up with a bit of flour here, just to mix it in fully. So what you want this starting to kind of clump together into like a bigger lump, if you like. So let me blend this for another minute. In fact, I think this might be good enough. You don't want to over blend this. The main thing is that it needs to kind of start sticking together, and this one actually is. Although I'm wondering whether I should add another 1/2 tablespoon of water, just the last bit, so it's just a little bit more moist and sticking together. Right, so again, a few seconds and I think we are ready to roll this out. So I'm gonna take my blade out and we're gonna gather all these moist crumbs that are escaping into a bowl. So yeah, so this is a nice bowl that is sticking together. You know, make sure obviously it's not too crumbly. You want it, you know, quite smooth, but obviously not too wet. You don't want this to be super wet. So what I've got here, I've got 2 pieces of parchment paper here. So I'm gonna roll this between the 2 pieces of parchment. So I'm gonna press this out a bit first. So you basically want to make it quite thin, and we'll line our tart case with it. So I'm just gonna roll this on here. If you don't have parchment paper, then what you could do, you could put a little bit of starch on your rolling pin and also on the table so it doesn't stick. But it's better to do it on the parchment paper because we'll use 1 piece to actually take it to our container and, you know, put it in and peel it off. It's much easier that way. So my tin is actually square, so I'm trying to roll something resembling a bit more of a square. The reason you don't want to over blend it in your food processor, because you don't want that gluten to develop. You want it to be a shortcrust pastry. So yeah, don't overwork it. So this is completely oil-free pastry, which is amazing, and it's so easy to make too. Right, so I think I'm gonna try and place this. Actually, I didn't need the second sheet. I'm gonna try and place this into my baking tin. So actually I've decided to use this oblong shape. I really need to get a proper Tart glass container. I don't have a one, you know, with the rigid ridges on the sides. I don't have a one, but I'm gonna use this for my tart. So I'm gonna just make sure it's a little bit oblong here, and we'll tidy up the sides anyway. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna invert it over this bowl and peel this off, and then carefully just kind of lay that in there a little bit to try and make sure the edges become a little bit more uniform. And obviously we'll have to trim off some edges here too. So I think I'm gonna go with this edge here because it's looking quite, you know, good size just around. So I'm gonna trim this to that height. Approximately. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of dough where it's missing, just on that side. Right, so that's looking good now. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna line this with the same parchment paper that I used, and I'm gonna pour, so you could pour some either ceramic baking beans or actual baking like beans. So I've got some actual beans. I'm gonna just pour them in, and we're gonna blind bake this for about 20 minutes on 180 degrees Celsius. But while it's baking, we're going to be preparing the filling. So since this is almond and cherry frangipane, we're going to go heavy on the almond. So in that respect, we have 1.5 cups of ground almonds. So this is about just short of 1 cup of almonds ground up in my spice grinder, and it's, you know, ground almonds, or you could buy it in the shops as well. So I'm adding this to my container. I'm also going to put a couple of pinches of salt here just to bring out the sweetness. And that is it from the dry ingredients. So we're now going to be adding the wet ingredients. So the star of the show, or the thing we want to use up, is the okara, or soybean pulp. So this is 1.5 cups of okara, so the same amount of the almonds, ground almonds, as okara. So this is just from me making 1 batch of soy milk in my Soyabella. I'll link to the video of how I make soy milk in Soyabella, really easy. And this is what's remaining after that. So adding our okara here. And for the sweetener, I'm not going to be using any refined sugar here. I'm going to be using 3/4 cup of maple syrup. So let me just pour that in there. Okay, then I'm gonna leave these in to mix in by hand in a bit. This is 2 tablespoons of chia seeds, so this is gonna be our binder. So this is instead of egg, but it also will give a nice crunch to the tart as well. And since we are going all out on the almond flavor, we need 5 tablespoons of almond butter as well. So I'm gonna just add that here, and I'm using smooth almond butter. Yeah, so this is 5 tablespoons. Then we need 2 teaspoons of vanilla essence. So there's quite a bit of vanilla, and also we're gonna have 1/2 teaspoon of almond essence, just to kind of give this almond flavor, but also to mask the beany taste from the okara. And since almond essence is really strong, we're gonna use just 1/2 teaspoon, because we already have almond ground almonds, almond butter, and then almond essence here, so 1/2 teaspoon. And now I'm gonna blend everything with a stick blender, or you could possibly do that also in your blender too. So that's it, just a few seconds to blend this, and oh my god, it smells so almondy from that essence and all the almonds. Yum. So now the last bit, I'm gonna add the 2 tablespoons of chia seeds and mix this in. And another thing you need to be doing, you need to be defrosting 1 cup of sweet cherries. You could use fresh cherries as well. You would need to take out the stones, obviously, or I just like using the frozen, because it's just so much easier. You defrost it maybe a couple of hours beforehand, and it's ready to use. So yeah, so that is it. This is the filling that we made for our tart. So the base of this frangipane tart is ready. As you can see, it kind of caught the edges a little bit browner. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to be covering those with the foil afterwards, because we're going to be baking this at 175 degrees Celsius, or a fan oven 165 degrees Celsius, for about 40 to 45 minutes. So obviously that's going to be too long for the edges. We don't want them to burn. So I'm going to add my filling here. So that's all the filling. So I'm gonna now distribute it evenly. That's actually worked out perfect for the size of the crust. There we go. Yeah, and now I've got my defrosted cherries, so I'm just gonna place them everywhere. There you go, so that's looking nice. You could also drizzle some of that cherry liquid, but I just want to keep it as it is, don't want it to get too watery. And I'm just gonna cover the edges just slightly so that they don't burn too much. So I'm just gonna try and gently make a little bit of a shielding so that they don't get directly burnt again. So the edges are more or less covered. So I'm gonna bake this on 165 degrees Celsius fan oven for about 40 to 45 minutes, and then we're gonna taste test it. The frangipane is done, and I've got a taste tester tonight here for you.
Hi guys.
It's looking really good and it's set actually quite well. So I'm gonna slice a piece for us to try. I think the crust is pretty hard.
Smells good.
Yeah, smells good. Smells quite almondy, doesn't it? So I'm gonna try and I think this.
Should I get the hacksaw?
Yeah, the crust is a little bit hard to cut, so it'll be quite crunchy because that's the one that we pre-baked. But yeah, actually, I think with the crust, maybe you don't need to bake it for that long. Maybe 15-20 minutes probably would be enough rather than 30 minutes, because I think mine is oil-free crust, so it actually kind of hardened up even more. I think if you were doing it with shop-bought pastry, then 30 minutes would have been, you know, fine. But with this, I think it doesn't need that long. So, there we go. So if we can try this bit. Yeah, so the crust actually hardened up quite a bit. Can you get us forks? We didn't get any forks. Yeah, so yeah, definitely don't bake the crust for as long as I said. For shop-bought one it will work, but for homemade, just bake it for, let's say, 15-20 minutes, not 30 minutes. But anyway, let's give this a go.
Okay.
Come on, Mark.
It's not.
Wow. Really good, isn't it?
That's really good.
So
wow.
if you don't overbake your crust, it'll be easier to slice and you'll not struggle that much. But taste-wise, so good. Actually, I would recommend putting more cherries. Put the whole lot full of cherries because it really goes really well. Yeah. So that's thumbs up from us.
That's so good.
Yeah. No, it is really good, and this is an amazing way to use up okara, would you believe it? So yeah, but this is amazing recipe. This recipe, the original one, was given to me by a friend, Katrina. I'm trying to talk here.
I know. I was just thinking about the okara before.
So, like I was saying, this original recipe was given to me by my friend Katrina. She obviously used a shop-bought pastry when she made it and no okara. But you know me, knowing me, I obviously want to use up, the okara we have. And I improvised and made this really amazing tasting.
Channel should be called Okara Origins. Really.
Yeah, well, you know, we're all about zero waste and reusing, repurposing. This is my bit.
It's too good.
So anyway, yeah, so if you like the video, give us a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel and want some more okara and other shenanigans, I do videos every Wednesday and Saturday. Welcome and subscribe for more. And as always, guys, remember that food is fuel, so be mindful of what you put in the body. Until next time.
Bye, guys.